Is this the dagger?
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the On the Ball podcast on the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Pranav Sriraman, and today I'm joined by Thomas Stapleton. Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. We got a couple NBA playoff games, a couple series winding down to the wire tonight, and we already know that the Nuggets-Clippers series is pretty much a simulation to the end. If you played NBA 2K, you just hit the button, simulate to the end. We already knew that series was a wash. The Clippers are absolutely manhandling the Nuggets right now. But we have a Game 7, the two best words in sports. We have a Game 7 tonight between the Celtics and your pick to come out of the East, the Toronto Raptors. I'm going to start with you. Are you confident that your pick in the East, the Toronto Raptors, are going to beat the Boston Celtics and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals tonight?
Am I extremely confident? No. But with that said, I do think they're going to win tonight. The thing with the Raptors is that they have arguably been outplayed in 5 of the 6 games. Yet somehow we're at a Game 7. There's a couple things they have to do. One, they have to continue to try to hold Jason Tatum down. If they can somehow manage to just keep Jason Tatum, if they can manage to keep him to a relatively slow start and then just continue to guard him well all night long, I think they can win this game. Kyle Lowry's going to have to show up. I want to see just a halfway decent game from Pascal Siakam. Just be okay. Just be solid.
Pascal.
He has been so brutally bad in this series, and that he's the only reason why I'm not as confident as the Raptors as I was when I said they would make the finals. I still think they can. If they win this series, I think they'll beat the Heat, and I think they will make the finals. But, man, Pascal Siakam has got to step up his game. He's got to come out there tonight, and I just want to see 20 points on solid efficiency. I don't think that's too much to ask for a 24-point-per-game score, but I just want to see around 20 points from him, and I want him to show that he is a star because he has not played like it at all this series.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Pascal. You know, I have been the one who has been on Pascal's dome, per se. I've been on his head to perform better for a while now. Ever since he entered the bubble, I've never been a big Pascal Siakam fan. I've always thought his offensive versatility is really weak, but they don't really need him to win this game. Yeah, as you've seen in these past performances, the Celtics have been inconsistent, and some have said, well, you can't expect Kemba Walker to have a 5-point game again. You can't expect Jason Tatum to perform that poorly in the clutch. But they've done that repeatedly throughout the series. It's not just like a one-time effect. It's been multiple times in the series. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown trade off whenever they want to have a good game. Kemba Walker, he can explode for 30 one night. And then last time you saw in 50 minutes he had 5 points on 1 of 8 shooting. I understand that he was covered in a box and 1. But when the box and 1 defense stopped, he was still cold from the field. That just cannot happen if you're the Boston Celtics. But listen, I'm going to pick the Boston Celtics to win this one. Both of us are Oklahoma City Thunder fans. I think you can relate to this. When it comes down to the wire, you pick the team with the stars. Boston is the team with the stars. Boston has 1, maybe 2 players who are the best players in the series, and Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker. And I think down the stretch, I know they've been inconsistent. I know they're not the most trustworthy guys in this moment of time. But right now, I don't see any other way I can pick against Boston. They were my pick coming into the series. I had them winning in 7. That's why I kind of rooted for Toronto last game. I wanted to see a Game 7. But I had Boston winning in 7 from the get-go. I'm a little concerned whether or not Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown can have a good game at one time, but I have to roll with the Boston Celtics on this one.
Yeah, I can respect that. The one thing about the Raptors, though, is that we've seen night after night, they haven't really had one consistent guy that's been the go-to. I mean, in the last game, we saw Kyle Lowry step up. We've seen Norman Powell step up. We've seen Fred VanVleet hit different shots. Serge Ibaka has been consistent. You have so many different guys that can come out and produce each and every night. And the one that I thought was going to produce the most has produced the least in Pascal Siakam.
Pascal.
So
Pascal.
I don't know who is going to show up tonight for the Toronto Raptors. I imagine it would be Kyle Lowry, but it could realistically be Serge Ibaka. It could be Norman Powell. It could be Fred VanVleet. Heck, it could be Pascal Siakam. Maybe he decides to show up. So we're going to have to see. It's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, I saw an Instagram post one of my friends, you follow him, the Fast Break, made the other day, and it showed that Pascal Siakam was shooting 27% from the field, and it's honestly sad when I'm like, wait, I thought he was shooting worse than this.
Yeah.
Last game, a true shooting percentage. If you guys don't know, true shooting percentage is one of the best efficiency stats, and it's supposed to basically count free throws, three-pointers. Every single shot on the floor, true shooting percentage takes that into account. Pascal Siakam last game had a whopping 29% shooting from true shooting percentage. He had 29%. That means his field goal percentage was abysmal. Pascal Siakam, he has to step it up, but we could say that all day. Obviously, he has to step up. I just don't know if I can trust him when the game comes down to the wire. I don't trust him, quite frankly, and that's why if the Toronto Raptors want to win the series, it has to be the Kyle Lowry show once again, the Fred VanVleet show. They have to play through the motion offense. They can't just allow Pascal Siakam to do his Beyblade spin moves into the paint and just wind up with the same 29% true shooting results.
I agree. And Pascal Siakam, one thing that I've noticed is that he's not getting to the hole enough because he's predictable.
He's so predictable.
Yeah, it's just the one spin move and try to go to the basket, and it's not working out. So he's had to settle for threes more often, which in theory would be okay because he's a 36% three-point shooter. No, he's shooting less than 20% from three.
He's really not that great of a three-point shooter when you look at it. Most of his shots come on the catch and shoot, open looks, but when he's contested, I don't trust him.
I don't trust him, period. He's shooting less than 20% from three. He's been absolutely horrendous. He needs to figure it out. I don't know if he is going to figure it out, but if he can't do it this game and they somehow win, he's got to get it going for
That's the problem. That's the problem which you hear like all over the media, all over Twitter, all over Instagram. You say when a star has a bad game, people are just like, oh, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. How many will figure it out moments are we going to give passes? How many passes are we going to give to these stars? We're at a game 7. There's no figuring it out. It's either you win or go home. Step the hell up. It's not, oh, we're going to give him another pass. Because we know he could perform at a different caliber on a different day. No, it's a game 7. You show up. The real ones show up in a game 7. We need to see that from Pascal Siakam, Kemba Walker. I'm not going to say Kyle Lowry since he performed great last game and what he did in the finals last year. Kemba Walker, Kyle Lowry, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and most importantly, Pascal Siakam.
Agreed.
But moving on, the series which is falling right after the Celtics and the Raptors conclude, either of those teams are facing the red-hot Miami Heat that just beat the Milwaukee Bucks, the best team in the NBA record-wise, who had the 2-time MVP in Giannis Antetokounmpo. They just beat that team. How confident are you that either the Celtics or the Raptors are going to overcome the white-hot Heat?
I'm not very confident at all, to be quite honest. The Heat have they've been absolutely insane. I was really low on the Heat coming into the playoffs. In fact, I had them losing in the first round. That didn't work out.
That's an L. That's an L.
Yeah,
sorry.
that is a massive L. And now they're just I don't know what to say. The Miami Heat have completely they've exceeded my expectations, and I'm sure they've exceeded a lot of other fans' expectations.
They exceeded mine. I had the Bucks making the finals.
Exactly. I didn't have the Bucks making the finals because I don't know. Just last year, I didn't expect the Bucks to be this bad, but they were worse than what I thought. I don't know.
Even one of our analysts, Daniel Almeida, who's one of the biggest Bucks haters, I'm sorry if he sees this. I'm just calling him a Bucks hater right now. Even he had them as a lock to make the Eastern Conference Finals. We made a bet. He said, dude, no. I'm not going to bet against the Celtics because I know the Bucks are going to make it. But the Bucks severely disappointed, and it was to this red-hot Miami Heat team.
Exactly. Props to Miami because they've just been playing out of their minds. I don't know if they could beat Toronto, I'm a little bit more confident in them beating the Celtics because I think they have the 3-point shooting to match up with them. And then at the same time, I think Bam could be a mismatch down low with Daniel Tice. The Raptors, I think the Raptors have a slightly better chance, not by much, but the Raptors have done a pretty terrible job of defending the 3-ball. And that's the one thing that's really made the Miami Heat so good, is just that they've been hitting a ton of threes. So I can't make official predictions yet with that series. Roughly, I would say the Raptors would beat the Heat in 7, and I'd also go the Celtics would beat the Heat in 7. But I really have to see tonight. I want to see how each team can perform under pressure.
It's tough. It's tough. If the Raptors win tonight, I see the Heat winning that series. Quite frankly, they have the best player in the series in either series. If they play the Celtics or the Raptors, Jimmy Butler is by far the best player in that series. And then they're snipers from outside. Duncan Robinson create his own shot or get created for him. Tyler Hero has been absolutely red hot in this entire bubble. In the playoffs, he could create his own shot. He could create off the dribble. He's just another shot creator on the team. You have Andre Iguodala with experience, Jay Crowder who can hit timely shots, and then you have Bam on the inside being the defensive anchor alongside Jimmy Butler, who's one of the best leaders in the NBA. Quite frankly, I think the Heat and the Raptors match up perfectly. They both match up really well, the Heat and the Celtics, the Heat and the Raptors. But as I said, I have the Celtics making the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm going to assume that it's going to be the Heat versus the Celtics, and it's going to be tough. But once again, I'm not going to go with I don't even know. I have to go with the Boston Celtics, honestly. It's just the star power, the shot creators. I feel like it'll be too overwhelming, especially since they have that experience. Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker doesn't necessarily have that deep playoff experience, but Jaylen Brown does. It's pretty much all their young core is basically from that 2018 run. They're all still in the same squad. So I'll have to lean with the Boston Celtics, but I think Jimmy Butler will be the best performing player of the series, regardless of which series it ends up being.
I can agree with that, and Daniel has all the receipts for how he called the Celtics go into the NBA Finals. Oh my goodness, we'd never hear the end of it from him.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and I know he thinks Jason Tatum is top 10, which he's not. But we'll get to that on another note. We're gonna move on to the Milwaukee Bucks, which we touched on a little bit earlier. What do they do from here? Obviously, they lost very disappointingly in the second round last week. And Giannis, the back-to-back MVP in a couple days, he did not play like an MVP in the series. All the supporting cast, Chris Middleton only played one good game. Eric Bledsoe should just be off the roster immediately after shooting 2 of 12 in an elimination game. So, Thomas, I'll ask you this. Where do the Bucks go here? What moves do they make? What do they do? Just tell me. Give me the whole spill.
What the Bucks have to do, obviously, is try to upgrade their roster as much as possible. They need a Chris Paul. That's what they need. They need to do everything they can in their power to get Chris Paul. I don't care if it means trading Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe. They need to get him. If there's one guy that I think would pair excellently with Giannis, but could also close out at the end of games and could really help them. No one in the NBA was more clutch than Chris Paul this season. And I think that he would be a great partner next to Giannis. But if they can't get someone like a Chris Paul, you got to explore the Giannis trade option. You do. Giannis is an extremely incredible player, and he's going to bring in a big haul. And right now, the Bucks, if Giannis were to leave in free agency, what do they have? They've got a bunch of aging guys on their roster.
They have nothing.
They have nothing. They have no real young talent outside of Dante DiVincenzo.
And they're going to have horrible. Their pick situation's horrible as well. I think we lost Thomas right there, but I'll touch on that. The pick situation for the Milwaukee Bucks is horrible. They only have two first-round picks upcoming. Are you good?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I don't know what happened. Yeah, and if let's say they lose next year in the Eastern Conference Finals to the second round, or let's say even the finals, if they lose there, they're going to have a high pick, and Giannis is just going to leave, and then you're completely screwed. You have nothing. You have aging pieces, no young talent.
And they have 2 first-round picks. They don't have – their pick situation is awful.
And they don't have any picks either. You have to seriously think about trading Giannis Antetokounmpo because I don't think he's staying. I've talked about it before. I do not think he's going to stay. I think Toronto is more enticing. I think Miami is more enticing. The Warriors, the Mavericks. I think there's so many better options for Giannis's career than staying with Milwaukee with a bunch of aging, role players outside of Chris Middleton. And yeah. I really think that the Bucks need to explore trading Giannis if they can't get someone like a Chris Paul.
It's tough. Like, as both of us are Oklahoma City Thunder fans, like I mentioned earlier, the same situation came up about 4 years ago with Kevin Durant. He didn't sign the Supermax when the Oklahoma City Thunder offered it to him. There were talks that maybe they should move on right then. But when you have a talent like that, I just don't see a team giving that all up. You don't trade Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think you have to give it one more run because he is a top 6 player in the NBA, in my opinion. And when you have a talent like that, you pair him up with a shot creator like a Chris Paul. You don't even need a Chris Paul that costs too much. Go out there, get a Bradley Beal. I know your defense will suffer a little bit, but you have the number 1 ranked defense in basketball this season. Go out there, get a Bradley Beal. Hell, even go get like a Zach LaVine if he's cheap. You need a shot creator on that roster. They just simply don't have one. Chris Middleton, he's not a shot creator. He's the guy who could – he could dribble up the court, pull up, but that's not creating your own shot. That's not creating shots for others. You need someone who can get other guys open, and quite frankly, the Bucks don't have that. They overpaid Eric Bledsoe. They didn't pay the luxury tax to keep Malcolm Brogdon, which is one of the horrendous decisions which they're regretting. With Malcolm Brogdon, I think they're easy finals lock and potentially the favorites to win the NBA Finals if they kept Malcolm Brogdon, but instead John Horst and that ownership staff was stingy on not paying the luxury tax to keep a player who their star player loved on the roster. And so I just don't see Giannis staying after all of that, after all the commotion. But a couple of destinations in terms of trade options is I don't really see a team that could offer up the assets required to get a Giannis Antetokounmpo because his trade value is so high based on how young he is, based on how much he's achieved, based on the MVPs, the impact stats, based on the Defensive Player of the Year. His trade value is one of the highest, if not the highest in the league, next to Anthony Davis, who's obviously not going to be traded, and Zion Williamson. He has one of the highest trade values in the NBA, but it's at a point where I don't think you could trade Giannis Antetokounmpo when you have a talent like that. You have to kind of get Giannis help. That's a decision that the Thunder, they didn't get Kevin Durant help. That's why he left. If you get Giannis help right now, there's a chance you stay and hell even win a championship. But right now, at this point in time, I just don't see the Milwaukee Bucks trading Giannis. But the only teams I could really see throwing a package to potentially acquire Giannis in a trade is Golden State. If they give up a package around the second pick, Klay Thompson, a couple assets, and then Oklahoma City, quite frankly. Oklahoma City, quite frankly, could offer a trade package for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think they will trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo based on how they're in a small market. They can't afford him. But I'm going to let Thomas step right in. He had a thought which he was finishing. Thomas, what were you saying before?
What were we talking about again?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
All right. Yeah, I've said it before. I think he's going to Toronto. But if he wants if he wants to go somewhere where he has the best chance of winning endless rings and building Dallas.
Well, yeah.
Doncic, Giannis, Kristaps Porzingis. Who I don't think any team out west is beating that. That team could legitimately.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think Dallas would probably be the best destination for Giannis. If he wants to win immediately, get that glory, he could go to either team, honestly, thinking about it. But I think Dallas would be a very nice option. But knowing Giannis, knowing his friendship with Stephen Curry. I think he wants to be at the Bay, and it's not going to be a super team because they have to make a package for him. I think if I was Bob Myers of the Golden State Warriors, I would trade Klay Thompson over Draymond Green just because I love the fit Draymond Green with Giannis. Imagine that defensive front court with Draymond Green and Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2 top 5 defenders in the NBA. I think it'll be sensational if Giannis goes to Golden State. That would be Steph Curry's team, by the way. That's not Giannis's team.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. A lot of people in the media are overrating Giannis. I see that now they're getting kind of a reality check. Even I'm ranking him below Anthony Davis at this point.
Really?
But, yeah. Do you want to enter that? Do you want to enter that?
I respect it. I just it's tough for me because Anthony Davis, as great as he is, he didn't have much success as a first option either. I understand his greatest,
the supporting cast was horrendous.
It was, but remember he had Drew Holiday. He had Boogie Cousins as well.
He had Boogie Cousins for 19 games of 2017 when they're already out of the playoff picture. The very next year, DeMarcus Cousins tore his Achilles, and Anthony Davis made the playoffs as a 6th seed, beat the favorite Portland Trailblazers, and then he got matched up against the Golden State Warriors and put MVP-type numbers.
The thing is, I still think here's how I want to put it.
It's basically Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett did not have a bunch of playoff success, but I have Kevin Garnett as a top 10 player of all time because of his impact on the court. I think Kevin Garnett is a top 10 player of all time. He was super impactful. He had the production. He had the efficiency, the defense. I don't see how we can discount Anthony Davis just because he didn't muster up enough team success. When his second option was Drew Holiday, I give Drew Holiday a ton of credit. But then his third option, most of those years, was E'Twaun Moore.
Yeah, you do have a fair point. It's just here's what it boils down to for me. I think Giannis would have with the perfect team structured around them. I think Giannis would have more success as the number 1 option, but I'd rather have Anthony Davis as a number 2. I value number 1 option.
So basically portability.
Exactly. That's what it really comes down to.
I can understand that. Just at this point of time, Anthony Davis, technically, historically, is one of the best playoff performers of all time, even in a small sample size. And we're seeing it yet again this year. He's obviously, during these playoffs, I don't think anyone can disagree. He's been the best player on the Lakers during these playoffs. He's just absolutely balling out. His impact is extremely high. He's been extremely efficient. I attested to it in my article earlier today. And his production is sky high on both ends of the court right now. I just think you can't leave Anthony Davis out of that discussion as a top 5 player.
No, I agree. He's definitely up there with Giannis. I just have a problem with Anthony Davis because whenever I watch him, he's so absurdly talented, and he obviously puts up extremely good numbers and is extremely great on both sides of the basketball. But I would just love if he would stop shooting like fadeaway 18, 19-footers. That's like my one big problem.
He has that capability. For me, it's like this. You don't shoot a fadeaway contested if you're Anthony Davis. No, you embrace the post, but if at the same time, if that shot is open, you take it.
Oh, 100%. But there are just some times where I feel like I want him around the basket. I want him catching lobs. Oh, yeah. I want him to be able to dominate in the post, and then he'll like settle for some stupid fall away 20-footer when there's a guy right on him. I saw it against the Rockets in Game 1. It was the play against PJ Tucker. He airballed, and I see that a lot, and it just bothers me. But outside of that, he's obviously phenomenal.
Yeah, I have both of them over James Harden at this point. We'll get to James Harden and the Rockets later on in the show. That'll be our final topic. But moving on, we have some news in Brooklyn. Steve Nash has been hired as the new head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Thomas, do you think the Brooklyn Nets will make the finals next year and potentially win one under Steve Nash's coaching?
No, they will not. People just say, "Oh, we have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. We'll be fine." No, you need more than that. I believe you talked about that earlier. They don't really have the right roster constructed around them right now. No. We have to see what they're going to do in the offseason, but right now with this roster, I'm not going to bet on it. Kevin Durant, I do think he'll come back and be fine, but an Achilles injury is no joke. We have to see what he's going to come back and be like. Kyrie Irving is very injury prone as well, so there are serious injury concerns with this team. And then the roster outside of them, that in terms of fit, I don't love it. Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert. Spencer Dinwiddie is not a good fit next to Kyrie and Durant. Maybe he could come off the bench, but he's a guy that really needs the ball in his hands, and he's not a very good spot-up shooter. I believe he's shooting like 30% from three this season. The roster as constructed right now, I don't know what they're going to do in the offseason if they, get defensive pieces and shooters and just great role players around Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Then we can have the discussion then. But right now, I understand. I think Steve Nash is going to be a good hire because I don't think they necessarily need a real coach. I just think they need someone that can manage the egos in the locker room and someone that they can respect. But as it stands right now, I don't think they're going to win the finals or even make it.
I think they'll make it. You know why? Because they have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I know I've been the one who's like, no, this roster is not going to get it done. But honestly, looking at how poor the competition in the East is, if you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, do you think that, okay, let's say the Bucks and the Nets and the Heat matched up. Who do you think wins that series with the healthy KD and Kyrie?
Okay, I'd probably go the Heat. I'd probably go the Nets, excuse me.
And do you think the Nets beat the Bucks? Because the Heat did. The Heat beat the Bucks. Do you think the Nets beat the Celtics? Do you think they beat your Toronto Raptors? I know you're not a Raptors fan.
I don't think they beat the Celtics. Crazily enough, I don't. And Raptors, that one's close. I'm not gonna. I can't pick a side on that one, but I actually do not think they would beat the Boston Celtics. I don't. Interesting.
I just have them making it out of the East because you have two supremely talented players like that. You can't afford to lose. Like we talk about Giannis, if you have KD and Kyrie in a weak East, you can't lose. You shouldn't lose. But with that being said, I don't see them winning a finals next year. As like you said, they need to make a couple roster adjustments. The Bradley Beal trade rumors, I think that's absolute bogus. They should not trade for Bradley Beal because he does not fit with that roster at all. I think they need to go invest in some perimeter defenders. Drew Holiday, I would love to see them make a package for Drew Holiday. They ship Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, a bunch of their young players, and some picks to New Orleans where they can develop. Possibly hire Kenny Atkinson in New Orleans where they can be reunited with their old head coach. And then you bring Drew Holiday in, and that team, I'd probably pick them to win the finals at that point if they get Drew Holiday. But at this current construction, I would pick the Lakers over them. I'd pick the Warriors over them. And I'd pick possibly the Clippers over them as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I've definitely taken the Lakers and the Clippers and the Warriors. I think the Celtics are going to be really interesting because I think they are Daniel Tice. I feel like he does hold them back a little bit. Yeah. I feel like they really need a rim protector, and if they can just get someone like, I'm not saying
Rob Williams III.
Oh my goodness, Rob Williams, my favorite. But no, someone like a Tristan Thompson, not necessarily him, but just someone like that.
I would take Robert Williams 100 times, 24/7, twice on Sunday, whatever that goes. Like I'll take Robert Williams every day of the week over Tristan Thompson. It's not
really interesting. Well, just someone of his character. Maybe they bring Aaron Baines back. Just saying from the Suns. But just if they can just get a big body underneath someone that's going to play really good defense, I think that they could potentially knock off the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I disagree. I just don't think they have the talent to do so. Jason Tatum, he's developing into a superstar, but I just don't see them making it with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, especially Kyrie Irving being extra motivated against Boston Celtics. I just don't see it happening.
It's difficult. The Nets are one of the most interesting teams. Are going to be one of the more interesting teams in the league next year because I could seriously if they are all clicking like you said, they can make the finals and they could probably win if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are doing what they usually do in the playoffs. But if there are chemistry issues, if the roster doesn't fit around them, they could be a second-round exit. So I'll go floor second-round exit, ceiling NBA champs. I'm leaning somewhere in the middle of that conference finals exit.
So we talked about Kevin Garnett earlier, and I know I don't love getting into all-time lists, but I do have him in my top 10, maybe a little bit higher. And there's a specific name. You're going to be shocked. I have him over Larry Bird. I have him over Magic Johnson and Kobe Bean Bryant. React to that. Do you agree with that or not?
Oh, my goodness. My first thought is no, because I have no stats in front of me. I have nothing to look at that and see if that, if that really checks out. I want to hear your reasoning. I want to hear why. I got to hear why first.
Kevin Garnett has one of the highest impacts in NBA history. I think everyone knows that. Defensively, he's one of the best defenders in NBA history as well. Probably top 7 in that category. And the team success part, you could talk about titles all you want. Kobe Bryant, he had Shaq, Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom. He had an abundance of help, which Kevin Garnett, quite frankly, didn't get in Minnesota until he went to the Boston Celtics. But production-wise, defensively, Kevin Garnett, better than Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Kobe Bryant, not even close. I'm sorry, Jalen, in the chat, but recent events have told me that Kevin Garnett is better because I don't look at these accolades. I look at the impact because accolades are so team-based. It has to do so much with situation. Kobe Bryant entered a situation where he entered with Shaquille O'Neal, and then without Shaquille O'Neal, he missed the playoffs multiple times, and those were the years he stat padded on horrible efficiency. The years where people thought he should have won the MVP over Steve Nash. He didn't deserve those MVPs. But getting back to a real point, Kevin Garnett, whenever he made the playoffs, he did not disappoint. He took a Timberwolves team that had Sam Cassell as a second option to the Western Conference Finals. He took a Celtics team. Well, he was the best player on that team. I know people think Paul Pierce was because he won Finals MVP, but really it was Kevin Garnett. And it wasn't even, quite frankly, it wasn't even close at all. But, yeah, I just have Kevin Garnett over Kobe Bryant. I had other stats in front of me, but based on impact, production, defense, two-way ability, I have to take Kevin Garnett over all 3 of those guys.
Ooh. So Kevin, in my opinion, I don't have any stats in front of me, so this is just me speaking. Okay, so Kevin Garnett is far and away the best defensive player out of those 4. Kobe Bryant, I understand he's got 12 all-defensive teams, but I do think all-defensive teams,
they're overrated. Jalen text me after this show. It's not circles.
Not only that, but I think that I think they lack context sometimes. I don't love voters. I think voters are the media voters, some of them are smart. Don't get me wrong. They're not all stupid.
But then we saw Greg Logan in the media vote. Luka Doncic for his team all defense.
Exactly. It's people like Greg Logan and Rachel Nichols that just really ruin it. And I feel like there are some more people like that. I saw Jarrett Allen got a Defensive Player of the Year vote. I saw Patrick Beverley get a Defensive Player of the Year vote. There's a lot of stupid voters out there. So I would definitely say Kevin Garnett is the best defensive player of the 3. Larry Bird was a great defender. Magic was notoriously bad. Offensively, would you say he was the worst offensive player of the 4?
Of the 4, scoring wise, no. Scoring wise, it's easily Magic was one of the worst, but his playmaking makes up for it. I would say, yeah, he was the worst in terms of impact, but he was still a pretty good offensive player.
All right. If I had to rank the 4 right now, I don't have any stats in front of me, but I would probably go Magic, Garnett, Bird, Kobe. That's how I would rank them right now.
Really?
Yes.
Well, why the change of heart with Kobe?
What do you mean?
I thought you recently had Kobe over him.
Over where?
Over Garnett. Over Garnett.
Oh, I don't really like engage in all-time rankings. I don't remember when I said that, but yeah, I really have to look into it because I don't have any stats in front of me. I haven't really researched the topic a bunch because I don't love engaging in all-time debates, especially when I've rarely watched Kevin Garnett. But just based off the impact, based off of portability, based off all Kevin Garnett has done, I think it's very similar to Hakeem and Kareem, where Hakeem, I believe he was the better player, but simply didn't have the team around him.
Hakeem is the best center of all time. It's not even close.
I agree.
Unless you consider Bill Russell, but
would you say Kevin Garnett is better than Kareem?
Kevin Garnett's better than Kareem? No. Because Kareem has longevity that's only second to LeBron.
Yeah, I can say that. I don't know why I love Magic Johnson for whatever reason. I understand he had a ton of.
Also, you had Magic number one.
Yeah,
Magic number one on the rankings. Hell no. Larry Bird was way better than Magic. It was not even close.
Really?
It was not close. It was not close at all. No, it wasn't close at all. Because Magic was slightly a better playmaker, but Larry was an elite playmaker as well. Larry was a better scorer. Larry was a better defender. He had a good team. Don't get me wrong, but it was nowhere near Magic's. When you had James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, AC Green, Jamal Wilkes. When you combine all of that, and you had Bob McAdoo, former MVP, coming off the bench, all the help Magic had on his team made it so much easier for him to win. I just don't. Larry Bird has done so much more. He makes much more impact on the game, on the court. I have to take Larry Bird. It's not even close to me. It's just a rivalry. I get it. It's a rivalry. The Lakers always, most of the time, dominated the Celtics in the 80s. That's why you have this perception that Magic's better than Larry Bird, but he also had Kareem on those teams. Kevin McHale is a great player, but he's nowhere on the level Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was.
True, but here's my thing about that is that I think not only this, I think Magic and Larry Bird also both make all of the players around them better. I understand.
But why would you take Magic over him? That's the question.
That is a tough question. Again, I don't have any stats in front of me. I don't know what the impact stats look like.
There weren't really many impact stats, but based on versatility, you could tell.
See, I feel like Magic was the perfect player to build around back then. I felt like he is a guy that could make everyone better. That's why they have 5 championships. I understand they had a lot of great individual talent around them, but I also think Magic Johnson not only could elevate individual players, but could also elevate the teams as well. He was a better player.
So does Bird. So what's your point?
No, I fully agree with you. And I don't think it just comes down to championships, but it's super close. I'm not gonna lie. I can't go really one way or the other.
But why? You had Magic. Okay, hold on. You had Magic, then Garnett, then you put Bird third. Then why you change the part right now? Tell me why is Magic better?
I really need to look up the stats. I do, because right now I'm just kind of talking.
But you assumed that Magic was better, but there has to be some reasoning to why Magic was better. Is it the playoff success? Because Larry Bird had that as well. Larry Bird beat Michael Jordan twice in the span of 3 years. Well, twice in the span of 2 years, actually. And he's won the championships.
Okay, so Magic has more championships. It doesn't all chalk up to that. I think Magic is a better playmaker. I thought Magic.
It's not by a huge margin.
I don't think scoring was by that huge of a margin. Larry Bird is definitely.
That is false. That is completely and utterly false. That is a ridiculous thing. Magic Johnson, he was a good post scorer, but Larry Bird had the best offensive versatility at that time. He could score from 3. He could create his own shot. He could create off the dribble. He could catch and shoot. He could drive. He could dunk. He wasn't the most athletic guy, but you know what I'm saying. He could do it all. So what do you mean by the fact that Magic Johnson was similar scorer? It wasn't close.
No, it wasn't not similar necessarily. And again, Larry Bird is the better shooter. It's not close. Which is why things like catch and shoot and 3-point shooting, obviously I would give that to Larry Bird. And Larry Bird is the better scorer, but I don't think it's a night and day difference. I think that Magic Johnson
is a night and day difference. Why? How is it not? How is it not? Everything Magic Johnson does besides interior scoring, I'm not even sure that is true. Larry Bird does better on the offensive end.
I don't have any stats in front of me. I can't. You're probably right. I do. You are probably right here.
Based this off what you know, who has more offensive versatility?
Probably Larry Bird, based off of what you said.
And who could score more at all three levels?
Larry Bird. Larry Bird is the better.
Who's the more efficient scorer?
I believe Larry, but I.
So what's the debate? It's not a debate. Larry Bird is better at scoring, and defense is not even close.
Oh yeah, defense. Yeah, defense. It's not even close. But again, wasn't Magic Johnson still a 20-point per game scorer?
Yeah, I think around that range. But Larry Bird was a much better scorer. It's not close at all.
All right, I don't think it's like Larry Bird is a 30-point per game scorer, while Magic Johnson is a 15-point per game scorer, which is what it kind of sounds like here. But I do agree that Larry Bird is the better scorer by a pretty significant amount.
Career stats. So Larry Bird in his career averaged 25 points per game, while Magic averaged 19. So tell me this. What's your case for Magic being a better scorer? You said it's not night and day.
No. Magic's not the better scorer.
No. You said it was not night and day. So I want to know why it's not night and day.
Because at the end of the day, Magic Johnson is still a 20-point per game scorer.
So what? James Harden averages more points than Stephen Curry. Is he a better scorer? No. So what does points per game mean?
It's the amount of points you score.
Well, it doesn't really. When you consider the volume, obviously, probably Larry had a higher volume, but he maintained better efficiency from range from all three levels while scoring more. I don't see how you could say it's not a night and day difference.
Because, again, I think Larry Bird is the better scorer. He's a more versatile offensive player, and I think it's a significant amount. But we also have to not act like Magic Johnson isn't a 20-point per game scorer here.
So what? So what?
It's not a complete difference. It's not like Magic Johnson's some scrub when it comes to scoring.
I never said he was. I never said he was once.
Especially when you consider the fact that he wasn't as versatile as Larry Bird was. So
he's not a better scorer.
Yeah, he's not. I agree. I've said that.
It's not night and day either. Larry Bird, it is night and day, actually. Larry Bird is a much better scorer. It's not even close.
I think this is going to be an agree to disagree thing. Again, Larry Bird is the significantly better scorer, but I don't think it's some absolutely astronomical difference.
It is astronomical in my opinion. But you had Magic over Bird about 3 minutes ago, so do you still believe that way? Why do you believe
that? Again, I don't have any stats, but I think when it comes down to it, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird are very similar in terms of leading their teams. I think Magic Johnson is the slightly better passer. I think Larry Bird is the better scorer. Defensively, I also think Larry Bird has it.
You said they're just as good as leading their teams. Well, Magic Johnson had a player who's better than him all time and who's still a very good player at the time he was with Magic Johnson in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I don't know if would I have Kareem above Magic. I'm not completely sure. I would.
We can get to that on a different day, but let me provide you the stats you so desperately require. So Magic Johnson averaged 19 points per game. Okay, he averaged 19 points per game on an effective field goal percentage of 53.3, while Larry Bird had a slightly lower effective field goal percentage of 51.4. But you have to realize that the majority of his points came from range. Their true shooting percentage was not a stat back then. I could check. Oh, never mind. True shooting percentage, Larry Bird on his career is a 57% true shooting percentage, while Magic Johnson, however, is a 61%. So, yes, efficiency goes to Magic Johnson. But you have to realize he doesn't have that scoring versatility Larry possesses.
Right. I completely agree. You may have changed my mind. You may have honestly changed my mind. Props to you. You may have honestly changed my mind on the topic.
But yeah, let's move on. We're gonna conclude with our final topic of the day, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston, we have a problem. That was the title of this episode. So the Houston Rockets are facing elimination. If the Lakers win tomorrow, they're done. This was their best chance to honestly win a championship in their James Harden era without the Warriors matching up with them, without KD on Golden State. So, Thomas, tell me this. Do you think the Rockets should blow it up, like completely, get rid of James Harden, get rid of Russell Westbrook, get rid of everyone, and just tank? Or do you believe you get rid of Westbrook and build around James Harden similar to the way they did in 2015 with the Dwight Howard team, the Trevor Arizas, the Luka Mutes?
No. I think it's time to get rid of everyone. It's time to get rid of James Harden. It's time to get rid of Russell Westbrook. It's time to get rid of Mike D'Antoni. I think everyone needs to go. The only person that I would keep is Daryl Morey. I'm not a huge fan of his analytical.
Daryl Morey's an upcoming free agent. He determines his own fate. But
I didn't even know that. If I were Daryl Morey, I don't know if I would necessarily stay in that case, especially if Houston were to decide to blow it up.
But that's up to him.
Isn't he a free agent? Is he?
It's a tough situation. I think at the end it will come down to Tillman Fertitta, what he wants to do, the owner.
Yeah, because I don't know if he would necessarily want Daryl Morey to be in charge of the team if he's not even necessarily going to be with that team in the future. So if I would really try to keep Daryl Morey. I think he really does a good job in terms of structuring teams. And getting, star talent. We saw him get Russell Westbrook. I understand that Russell Westbrook and James Harden, it's a horrible fit. But it's time to blow it up. It's time to blow it up in Houston. I do believe you can build a championship contender around James Harden. I believe it. But I don't think Russell Westbrook is that player. And I don't think it's ever going to happen in Houston. Look, they just traded, 4 first-round picks to OKC?
Two. And 2 pick swaps.
Oh, okay. So 2 first rounder and 2 pick swaps. And they really don't have a future. I mean, they've got Russell Westbrook and James Harden, but those guys are, I believe, 30 and 31 years old. Those guys are getting older by the minute.
That's not too old, but I mean.
True, but someone like Russell Westbrook, unless he gets a jump shot, his athleticism is going to start to deteriorate pretty soon. And how good of a player is he going to be?
We've already seen multiple times this year he's become injured. Recently the quad, but his jump shot is absolutely atrocious. And yeah, like you said, he's going to lose his athleticism.
Yeah, and the pairing, unless you can somehow flip Russell Westbrook for the perfect fit next to James Harden, which I don't think they're going to be able to do. I think you have to seriously look at trading both of those guys. I think James Harden could bring in a monster trade package because obviously he's a superstar in the NBA. That's the type of player he is. He's going to bring in, several picks, several great young players. And then Russell Westbrook, it's gonna be way tougher to get rid of him because who wants him at this point? Like I would not want him on my team. It's going to be tough to get rid of him, but if they can just get rid of both of those guys, and then really just start a youth movement in Houston, stockpile picks, very similar to what OKC kind of did. They went from no future to tons of picks, and they had a bunch of solid young players. That's what I really think Houston needs to do. I don't think they're going to win a championship with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Unless they can get a perfect player next to James Harden, I think it's time to blow it up.
You're wrong. You're wrong. You don't trade James Harden. He's your franchise. He's literally the best athlete in the city of Houston. No disrespect to Deshaun Watson, but James Harden is basically the face of Houston sports right now. He is the biggest athlete they've had since Hakeem Olajuwon. And well, you could consider JJ Watt, but what I'm trying to say is he is the face of Houston sports. You cannot trade him. He means way too much to that city, to the revenue, the culture they've built, just the entire clutch city mantra that's just going around that city. That is James Harden. He's the foundation. And I really, like you said, I really truly believe you can build a championship contender around him. You get rid of Russell Westbrook immediately. That was just an awful trade. Personally, I think if they ran it back with Chris Paul, Clint Capella, the squad, they brought Trevor Ariza in, I think they would have been the championship favorites this year. I think they really would have. But quite frankly, they went for the big names instead of using their knowledge like they usually do. One thing we have to credit the Houston Rockets for is they're one of the best analytics team. They go off of analytics. And I know there are guys like Ball Don't Stop out there who say, well, analytics and gimmick ball doesn't work. That analytics and gimmick ball was one game away from winning the Western Conference Final against the best assembled team in NBA history. The analytics ball, but they fell for the big name in Russell Westbrook. And that was just an atrocious trade rush for Kemba, is what Jalen said in chat. That was impossible. But, yeah, you have to get rid of Russell Westbrook. It was just an awful fit to begin with. But you do not get rid of James Harden. You pair him up. Try trading Russell Westbrook in a three-team trade package. Try to acquire Rudy Gobert, who could be your defensive anchor if things don't work out between him and Donovan Mitchell in Utah. I don't really see that happening. But keep Robert Covington. Trade for guys like a Drew Holiday. You can assemble a championship contender around James Harden when you create a team that's best fit for him. I think they had that team. I think they had the perfect chance. It's just Golden State stood in the way. They should have kept the same team, but at the end of the day, you can't go back in time. You can't redo your mistakes, but you can learn from them moving forward and make your team better than it is right now.
See, the problem is, though, if you're Houston, right, and let's say you do ride it out with James Harden, and you don't win any championships, and now all of a sudden you don't have any future, do you really want to risk that? I understand your whole point about James Harden being the face of Houston sports and being this big player, but what if they don't win a championship? What if they can't assemble the perfect team around James Harden? Then what's going to happen? Then they're stuck with no rings, no future. So what happens?
What happens from there is they traded 2 of their picks to OKC, but they have their own picks. And eventually, you don't have to trade James Harden immediately. That's not what I'm saying. You have Russell Westbrook as a trade asset. There's some idiotic general manager out there who think Russell Westbrook is a valuable trade asset when we both know Russell Westbrook. I would not want Russell Westbrook on my basketball team. But there's a general manager. Let's say they trade with the Knicks. The Knicks would take Russell Westbrook in a heartbeat. Let's say they get all the Knicks picks, potentially end up with an Imani Bates. You're telling me you can end up with Imani Bates right next to James Harden or a Jalen Green or a Jonathan Kuminga. You're right back into that championship picture. So I don't think you trade James Harden. You trade Russell Westbrook, but the haul you can get from Russell Westbrook combined with your own picks, other than the 2 you traded to Oklahoma City, I think that can be a very valuable asset, and they can be a championship contender sometime.
See, the problem is with that is that let's say he does get traded to the Knicks. What are the chances they actually get someone like a guy like someone that could really change a franchise like Imani Bates? Like, because if they can get Imani Bates, if they can somehow pair Imani Bates with James Harden, yes, then definitely keep James Harden. But what are the actual odds of that happening? What are the actual odds?
Very low, but with Russell Westbrook, you could potentially get other assets too. You could potentially grab Mitchell Robinson in that trade too, for sure. You could get Mitchell Robinson. I know Jalen in the chat right now is a big Knicks fan. He would not want to give up Mitchell Robinson, Russell Westbrook, but the Knicks will give that up any day. They want Russell Westbrook with the Worldwide West there with his connections. They would want the big superstar in Madison Square Garden. Even though I don't consider Russell Westbrook a superstar anymore, you would want that star in Madison Square Garden, the big attraction you haven't had in a while. But, yeah, I just don't see you trade James Harden right now. Maybe sometime if next year does not pan out. But right now, you do not blow it all up. I think you should fire D'Antoni, though.
Yeah, D'Antoni, no matter what, I don't care if you want to completely blow up the roster and just get rid of everyone. D'Antoni's got to go. I've never really been a huge fan of him. I understand he was one game away from potentially even winning the championship, because I think that the Rockets that year could have beaten the LeBron James led Cleveland Cavaliers because
the team was garbage. That team was garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was LeBron and a bunch of scrubs. I think they would have taken that series pretty handedly in either 5 or 6 games. But outside of that, he's never made the NBA Finals. Even with Steve Nash, even with Carmelo Anthony in New York, he's never made the NBA Finals.
When he was repaired with Nash and he had Dwight, Kobe, and Powell, he couldn't do it. That team as a whole, he couldn't keep that team, the emotions under check.
Agreed. But my big question is, who would you hire in that case that you seriously think could win them a championship as a coach?
That's a tough one. That's a very tough question. You have to see that. Honestly, you can get a Tyronn Lue, you can get a Mark Jackson, you can get an experienced coach like that. But I think when you have a generational talent like James Harden, a better coach will be out there, and that is probably going to be a name we've never heard of. I would not be surprised if we see Dirk Nowitzki throw his ring into the head coaching chase at some time in the future. But it's up for grabs. We just saw no one expected Steve Nash to be hired by the Brooklyn Nets. But yeah, it's all up for debate. If we're going off the current market right now, I would say you grab someone like a Tyronn Lue or a Billy Donovan, even though I believe Chris Paul was the main catalyst behind Billy Donovan's success. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. This was really fun. It was fun debating with Thomas on a variety of things. We'll be back. Let us know. Drop a like if you love the show. Stay tuned for every episode. I'm out for now, y'all. Peace.
Is this the dagger?